You and me, baby, are nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do it.
In the Urantia book.
So before we begin, just a cautionary statement. The images you're about to see will be disturbing. No, seriously, I anthropomorphized at least a couple of dozen videos surrounding animals. And not all of them were captured the way I wanted them to. So, moving on, I sometimes get some really provoking comments from viewers. Some great viewers provide outstanding feedback and support, while others' sense of ego superiority or contrarianism, which of course is known by the more popular terminology, troll, tends to get in the way. More regularly, it is even difficult for me to be able to read between the lines of what viewers are trying to convey to me due to the lack of context and, of course, that phenomenon. And more recently, which I'll not be showing on the screen, I had a viewer read me the proverbial riot act surrounding what they viewed to be my mistake of not including more members of the animal kingdom as part of one of my altruism speeches. Animal and insect alike, they thoughtfully provided me with what I believed to be countless AI-assisted examples of ants sacrificing themselves and herds taking care of injured members. Unfortunately, I didn't get a response back when I indicated to this viewer that they provided answers associated with what is called reciprocal, I repeat, a mutual exchanging of altruism. Hey, yeah, you over there. Hey, come closer. Seriously, I need to ask you a question. Would that be okay? Okay, great. So let's imagine that a wolf gets injured in a pack, right? A wolf pack. What could be some of the reasons why the other wolves would want to help their fallen comrade? Yes, to keep that other member alive in order to have a bigger group to defend themselves. That makes sense, right? Yep. We're making it a procreation thing where by having more diversity in the herd, right, they can multiply their numbers a little bit easier and replenish their ranks. Makes perfect sense. Good job. All right, ding, ding, ding. Great job, guys. So in a nutshell, yepers, many creature activities are instinctual and pre-programmed. No, selfless altruism is not really a component of the animal kingdom. And yes, I know what a few of you are thinking right now, but Adam, in the Urantia book, what about the 5 out of the 7 adjunct mind spirits that influence these decisions in the animal kingdom, such as the adjutant of council? And of course, my response to that would be, get away from me, you teacher's pet. In 113.1.8, it states that when a mortal mind breaks through the inertia of animal legacy and attains the third circle of human intellectuality and acquired spirituality, a personal angel, in reality too, will henceforth be wholly and exclusively devoted to this ascending mortal. But what is this term animal legacy? What really differentiates a human from a higher member of the animal kingdom? And exploring the complex architecture of human existence, as presented in the Urantia book, one must first recognize that the human being is a multifaceted reality composed of material, mental, and spiritual components, all unified by the unique gift of personality. Some are shared by members of the animal kingdom. Others, not so much. To understand the distinction between the human experience and that of the animal kingdom, it is necessary to examine the specific functions of these 7 adjunct mind spirits, the nature of the evolving soul, and the divine presence of the adjuster. The unique endowment of human personality. The Urantia book identifies personality as a direct gift from the Universal Father, bestowed upon the individual as a unifying force that integrates all other phases of existence. It is said that while God may be aware of the existence of the superuniverses, in 15.0.1, we learn, as far as the Universal Father is concerned, as a father, the universes are virtually non-existent, He deals with personalities. He is the father of personalities. A personality comes with the attributes of self-volition, absolute uniqueness, self-consciousness, identification of other personalities, and creativity that are timeless and unchanging. Unlike mind, which is a functional system, or spirit, which is a divine influence, personality is the I am of the creature. In other words, no other creature on the planet is part of the personality circuit that makes you, well, you. It is the consistent identity that persists through time, space, and even the transition of mortal death. Personality is not a thing. It is the unique presence that allows a creature to choose, to love, and to recognize other personalities. In the animal kingdom, there is a high degree of individuality, but there is no personality in the sense of a self-conscious, God-recognizing entity. While a dog or a higher primate may exhibit distinct character traits and emotional responses, they lack the personality circuit of the Universal Father. This circuit is what enables a human being to exercise true moral will. Animals function primarily on instinct and the lower levels of mind ministry, reacting to their environment with varying degrees of intelligence, but without the capacity to perceive the moral quality of their choices. Now I'm talking to you, Callie. Don't eat my son's taquitos.
Don't do it.
That is, they have the inability to reflect back upon their choices. It's like what the wise Joker once said to Two-Face in Batman: The Dark Knight. You know what I am? I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. A personality of the Universal Father is like Batman's response to jumping on the back of a car, using his utility belt to open the side door, and he would most certainly know what to do once he was inside the vehicle. Human personality, consequently, is the arena of free will, where the individual chooses their eternal destiny by choosing to align their life with a divine will. Personality functions to unify the divergent elements of the human experience. It brings together the material body, the intellectual mind, and the emerging spiritual soul. So, despite popular belief, you do not have a spirit, but you do have the propensity towards becoming one. This unification is not a mechanical process, but a dynamic living coordination. The Urantia book emphasizes that personality is the only reality in the creature experience that is capable of perceiving the first source and center. This capacity for God consciousness is the fundamental divider between the highest animal order and the lowest human experience. While animals are confined to the temporal world of cause and effect, the human personality has the potential to transcend the material realm and enter the spiritual career of the universe. The ministry of the seven adjunct mind spirits. So the mind of a human being is not an independent creation. Surprise, surprise. But is serviced by the seven adjunct mind spirits, which are the specialized influences of the local universe, Mother Spirit. These actual spirits function as a form of intellectual circuitry that empowers the material brain to function at levels of complexity. The first five adjutants, intuition, understanding, courage, knowledge, and counsel, are shared both by humans and the higher animal species. These spirits provide the foundation for survival, social coordination, and basic problem solving.
That's what I said.
The spirit of intuition is the most primal of these influences, providing the initial flash of recognition and the basic instincts required for self-preservation. Following this, the spirit of understanding allows a creature to relate ideas and experiences, fostering a basic form of learning. The spirit of courage is essential for the pursuit of goals and the defense of the self or the group, while the spirit of knowledge enables the accumulation and categorization of facts. Finally, the spirit of counsel facilitates the social instincts that lead to herd or pack behavior, and in humans, the complex structures of civilization. When it came to that commenter that sparked this video, they were not all wrong. There was some truth to the divine leading that they were discussing. However, the adjutant of counsel is just that, an external force, imposing its influence externally onto the creature, rather than the impulse stirring from within, such as a human could. The critical distinction between the animal and the human mind lies in the activation of the final two adjutants, the spirit of worship and the spirit of wisdom. No two animals, regardless of its intelligence, can access these two spiritual influences. The spirit of worship is the impulse that leads a creature to look beyond itself towards something higher, forming the basis for religious experience. The spirit of wisdom is the capacity to integrate experience, knowledge, and worship into a cohesive philosophy of living. It is the ability to look at the long-term consequences of our actions and to choose the highest path. Wisdom can be seen in behavioral health fields all the time when the counselor uses silence as an effective intervention or determines the stage is not yet set towards reflecting back what they are seeing with the client through intuition, knowledge, counsel, understanding, and of course, courage. The worship bit in a similar scenario would be to trust in God's divine plan, associated with human volition, along with their own self-determination for making good or bad decisions. The Urantia book explains that a human being only truly becomes human in the evolutionary sense when their mind is capable of being circuited by all 7 adjutants. This full circuitry creates a unique mind level that is receptive to the indwelling of a thought adjuster. If a creature only possesses 5 of the adjutants, as is the case with animals, their mind remains purely material and mechanical in its spiritual reach. They may possess great intuition and even a form of courage, or even have the urge to socially cooperate and care for one another based off of spiritual instinct, but they can never achieve the level of self-reflection required to invite the presence of God into their consciousness.
Take that, reciprocal altruism, air karate chop!
The evolutionary soul and the Urantia reality. The human soul is a unique creation that does not exist at birth. According to the Urantia book, the soul is a Urantia, or intermediate reality, that is born from the union of the material mind and the spiritual thought adjuster. This soul is the vehicle for survival after death. While the physical body returns to dust and the material mind ceases to function, the soul carries the identity and the memory of the individual into the next stage of existence. Animals do not possess souls and generally do not survive death because they lack the 6th and 7th adjutant spirits. They cannot produce the necessary spiritual friction with a thought adjuster to give birth to a soul. An animal's existence is entirely temporal. When they die, their individual consciousness ceases to exist, although their life energy returns to universal reservoirs. There is, of course, the singular exception of God the Supreme, who holds on to all creature experience, which is primarily why we're all here in the first place. And that personality survival is something that is earned and not given. The human soul, however, is an evolving potential. It grows as the individual makes moral choices and seeks to do the will of God. Every time a human chooses a spiritual value over a material impulse, that soul is strengthened and expanded. The Urantia book describes the soul as being midway between the material and the spiritual. It is not quite spirit, but it is no longer purely material. This Urantia nature allows the soul to serve as a bridge between the mortal life and the eternal spiritual life. The development of the soul is the primary purpose of the human experience on this planet. While the material brain serves as the physical laboratory for mind action, the soul is the record of that mind action as it relates to eternal values. So, the best thing I can think of when it comes to being a nerd like I am is solid state media, right? Think of it like a hard drive. even though it really doesn't perform that function because it's not.
That accurate. The human soul can only
Really remember relationships or things that have divine value.
So it doesn't remember everything. Which leads me to our next sponsor. Oh, we don't have any sponsors? Well, we'll just go on to the next part then. This is why the Urantia book places such a high emphasis on the quality of one's choices. Only those decisions which have a spiritual value are soul registered and thus preserved for eternity, while others are maintained by God the Supreme, seraphic records, and most importantly, your thought adjuster. The indwelling of the thought adjuster. The thought adjuster is a fragment of the Universal Father that lives within the human mind. The arrival of the adjuster is the most significant event in the life of a human being, typically occurring around the age of 5 or 6, when the child makes their first moral choice. However, as indicated in my previous videos, the adjuster most certainly cannot indwell a mind until it has been fully prepared by the ministry of all 7 adjutant mind spirits. The presence of the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of worship is the prerequisite for the adjuster's arrival. This is what made Andon and Fanta, our progenitors, so very special. These 2 spirits sensitize the material mind to the frequency of spirit, creating a hospitable environment for the divine fragment of God. Once the adjuster arrives, it begins its work of spiritualizing the mind. The adjuster does not override the human will. Instead, it works quietly to suggest higher thoughts and to translate the human experience into Urantia soul value. So in contrast, animals are never indwelt with a thought adjuster. Despite their capacity for intuition or even rudimentary reciprocal counsel, which is their highest spirit, animal minds are not calibrated to the spirit level. An animal's mind is a closed system of material reactions. The human mind, by virtue of the full adjutant ministry, is an open system that can receive broadcasts from other spiritual realms. The thought adjuster is the pilot of the human ship, but the human personality remains the captain. The adjuster provides the map and the compass, but the personality must choose to follow the course. This partnership is what ultimately leads to the fusion of the human and the divine, a state in which the individual becomes eternally one with the indwelling spirit. And by doing so, you become spirit. The struggle between the material and the spiritual. The human condition is characterized by a constant tension between the lower animal nature and the higher spiritual aspirations. Because the human mind is built upon the foundation of the first 5 adjutant spirits, the same 5 spirits that govern animal behavior. Humans possess many of the same drives such as animals, like the hunger for food, the desire for procreation, and the impulse for self-defense. These are not inherently evil or sinful, but they are primitive. As an example, it is written in 110.1.5 that all physical poisons greatly retard the efforts of the adjuster to exalt the material mind, while the mental poisons of fear, anger, envy, jealousy, suspicion, and intolerance likewise tremendously interfere with the spiritual progress of the evolving soul. And of course, the Urantia book teaches us that the whole purpose of human existence is to subordinate these animalistic tendencies to the guidance of the 6th and 7th adjutants, the soul, and of course, the adjuster. This process is known as mastering the self. While an animal is a slave to its instincts, a human has the capacity to pause, reflect, and choose a course of action that may even go against their survival instincts for the sake of a higher moral truth. Bringing me back to my residential treatment days. This is most clearly seen in acts of self-sacrifice or the pursuit of justice and beauty. The influence of the adjutant spirits is the mechanism through which this mastery is achieved. The spirit of counsel allows for social cooperation that transcends the law of the jungle. The spirit of worship directs the mind's attention away from the self and toward the creator. The spirit of wisdom provides the perspective necessary to see the big picture of the grand universe. When these higher influences are ignored, the human being reverts to a subhuman or animalistic state, where their superior intellect is used merely to serve their primitive desires. This is the root of much of the conflict which we see on Urantia, which is also known as Earth, as eloquently indicated by a seraphim guardian of destiny. This angel explains the animal-human conflict, indicating in 111.7.5, much of my difficulty was due to the unending conflict between the two natures of my subject. The urge of ambition opposed by animal indolence. The ideals of a superior people crossed by the instincts of an inferior race. The high purposes of a great mind antagonized by the urge of a primitive inheritance. The long-distance view of a far-seeing monitor counteracted by the nearsightedness of a creature of time. The progressive plans of an ascending being modified by the desires and longings of a material nature. The flashes of universe intelligence canceled by the chemical energy mandates of the evolving race. The urge of angels opposed by the emotions of an animal. The training of an intellect annulled by the tendencies of instinct. The experience of the individual opposed by the accumulated propensities of the race. The aims of the best overshadowed by the drift of the worst. The flight of genius neutralized by the gravity of mediocrity. The progress of the good retarded by the inertia of the bad. The art of the beautiful besmirched by the presence of evil. The buoyancy of health neutralized by the debility of disease. The fountain of faith polluted by the poisons of fear. The spring of joy embittered by the waters of sorrow. The gladness of anticipation disillusioned by the bitterness of realization. The joys of living ever threatened by the sorrows of death. The destiny of personality and soul. The Urantia book presents a vision of the future, where the human personality, having successfully navigated the material life and birthed a soul, continues its journey through the mansion worlds of the local universe. This journey is one of constant growth and education. The soul, which began as a tiny spark of Urantia reality, eventually becomes a powerful spirit entity. This destiny is fundamentally different from anything possible in the animal kingdom. Animals are not part of the evolutionary scaffolding of this world. They are necessary for the development of the biological systems that eventually produce the human mind, but they are not the goal of the process. The human personality is the goal. Each human being is an experiment in God realization, a unique attempt by the Universal Father to experience the universe through the eyes of a finite creature. The relationship between the personality, the soul, and the adjutant spirits is the machinery of this experiment. The adjutants provide the hardware of the mind. The soul is the software of the growing character, and the personality is the user who determines the final outcome. And I don't know why we're still not sponsored. Because humans have all 7 adjutants, they can talk to God. Because they have a soul. They can survive death, and because they have a personality. They can be known and be loved by God as individuals. The Urantia book portrays the human being as a bridge between the animal and the divine. We share our ancestry and our basic mental functions with the creatures of the field, but we are endowed with a spiritual potential that they can never know. The full circuitry of the 7 adjutant mind spirits is the key that unlocks the door to the indwelling of the thought adjuster and the birth of the immortal soul. Our task is to recognize this high calling and to choose, through the exercise of our personality, to ascend toward the Universal Father who gave us life. Thank you again for watching today's video, your continued support, and I'll see you on the next one.